here for the weekend pod with Wayne. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, very good. You're just back from a trip to Ireland. You didn't stay for the England versus Ireland international, then?
No, I don't know why this is my frame of reference, but I was talking about it yesterday because as we were driving through Dublin, we drove past the Aviva, and I was with my wife. So obviously it's on Lansdowne Road still. So I was telling her the historical battles. So the one in particular is in '95, where the game was abandoned.
Yes, England fans. Yeah,
it was. But my memory, I mean, apart from that, my memories of that gorgeous England kit that we had. That was like a maroon. We didn't wear it for very long, but I remember I was wearing that kit on that night. Anyway, that's my only memory of that. And I thought, do you know what? Obviously, as a staunch Irishman, I'm wearing green today to support my fellow compatriots. No, I didn't stay for the game, Ed, but we drove past the Aviva yesterday. But very, very brief relationship with that game.
Yeah, England's first victory in Ireland since 1964, apparently. Yeah. Not that I keep close attention to these things, but there you go. Lee Carsley. Goals from two Irishmen.
Yeah, that will
Irish
teach
adjacent.
them forgetting Cascarino and Mick McCarthy from England's grasp. So there you go.
Yeah, I find this all very strange. I mean, I guess I get the sort of the feeling of betrayal, since Grealish and Rice both represented Ireland at age group level. I think Rice actually played a couple of friendlies for Ireland as well when he was younger. Yeah, so I get the betrayal, but given the, I was going to say close relationship, I don't think that's quite the true historical record, but let's just say close relationship between the countries. It's not surprising there have been Englishmen playing for Ireland and vice versa. And I think something like, was it, I was reading a tweet, something like 10 players in the combined squads are eligible to play for either side in this game. So it's just the nature of the relationship between the two countries. And Lee Carsley, of course, played 40 times for Ireland and is now the interim manager of England. I don't know what he made of this very strange manufactured controversy about his propensity to sing the national anthem or otherwise. That seems very odd to me, this whole thing.
It was very Ellen Lovejoy, wasn't it? Oh my God. I remember we used to have this in the past. I mean, it was very much around the foreign manager thing, in Ericsson, because there was a resistance set for a long time. Yeah, the pearl clutching sort of nonsense that went on around that. And this is not a million miles away from it, because who cares? Really, who cares? Some people care.
Apparently some people care, yeah.
But is it enough to sort of like say that, look, Lee Carsley shouldn't be getting the England men's national football team job for all manner of reasons, last of which is that he won't sing the bloody song. It did make me think, though. I think we should go the other way with this. I think everyone, every team, every club team should adopt a song. I know that some already have them, but we should have them played before matches. Like, Liverpool have "You'll Never Walk Alone," but now the players have to line up and sing it. And then we have to sing, I don't know, Country Roads, if that'll be the song. Or maybe we adopt a new one. Maybe part of the new craze is that we write one. Everyone writes one. Pete Boyle might write one. He's good at doing that. Maybe there's one already in the Old Trafford song library that we can adopt, so you can pick your favourite. Yeah. That'll be a good marketing ploy. There'll be many musicians who'll want to line up, and like Chelsea, they've got that Chelsea, and which is similar to the Arsenal one, which you all know is Arsenal. Yeah. So maybe we can have some more inventive rhymes for those. And I think that if a manager can't recite his club anthem word for word, get them out. Because
immediately.
What good are they if they can't do that?
This week's controversy seems to have been started in the Telegraph with he must sing the national anthem. And then I saw just on Twitter before we started recording, Jeff Powell, I think in the Mail's written a piece saying he should be sacked immediately because he didn't sing the national anthem. And anyway, look, given I'm not religious, so the God part of the song is a bit odd to me, and no, it's important to many people, so fine. And I'm not a royalist, so the King part of the national anthem is a bit odd to me. So apart from that, it's all right. But anyway, it's the kind of very modern culture war, isn't it, around it? As for the actual team, Kobbie Mainoo played for, I can't remember how many minutes, 70 minutes or something like that, did fine, was involved in the build-up for a very nice second England goal. Angel Gomez came on late in the game. He's had a very interesting career, brilliant at youth levels and just not big enough, physical enough to really make it at United, no real pathway, and then went off to Lille and spent a year at Boa Vista and then 2 at Lille and has done really well.
Yeah. I know this narrative, and it will always be the case when someone goes away and does well, that United have made a mistake or whatever. I think he's just taken a natural path. It is incredible that he's, and obviously the prior relationships have helped him get more recognition by the people who were selecting the squad, which isn't a bad thing. And he deserves it because he's gone away, he's taken a chance, he's been bold, gone to a different environment, he's flourished, and he deserves that. And I think sometimes, you can look back at United and say, "Oh, you made a mistake there." He was such a talented kid, and he took such a bold chance that you want him to do well. Why would you want? What? There doesn't have to be a straight string that attaches it to United and say, "Oh, it's a mistake." I mean, sometimes you just look at it and you say, good on you, kid, because that is an incredible achievement that you've done, and it was to see him come on today's. It's probably, for me, I know Mainoo played all right, but the highlight was that, because that's another name that goes on the graduate wall of the international list for United. That's a very proud list.
I fully agree with you. I think he did the right thing for his career. There wasn't a pathway for him at the time, and if Ed Woodward was still around at United, he'd be writing a check out for 90 million euros to bring him back.
Yeah,
something no doubt like that. No. But very good for him. And of course, Lee Carsley was the under-21s, under-20 manager for England for quite some time. And I guess he still is the under-21s manager. And has obviously worked with Angel really well. Elsewhere in international, I didn't pay loads of attention to it, but Diego Dalot scored a nice goal for Portugal, assisted by Bruno Fernandes, sort of cutting in onto his right foot from the left and playing it through. And our old friend Cristiano Ronaldo scored his 900th goal.
Yeah.
Have you gone through all 900?
No, but there's some clever saps have spent their time putting those together for the YouTube compilations. And I did look at one, and it was 45 minutes long. Oh. Look, I know we've had our differences on Ronaldo over the past couple of years talking about him. That's incredible. It's an incredible number. I think we do a pod when we were talking about his 800th, which was scored for United against Arsenal. Right.
We may
well scored another 100 since then. Is at his age, and we have to say at his age, because that's ripe old coming up to the 40, which is gracefully represented by yourself and myself. The early 40s, very early 40s.
Just a number. So do you have a six pack like Ronaldo? You fully ripped.
You know it. I'm not going to show you that. But no, do you know? Yeah, it's an incredible achievement. It's great that a lot of those numbers were achieved while he was in our club, and it's good to see that he's still talking about it. I did see the quip. I heard about the quip. Sorry, I didn't see him actually say it, but I read about this when he remarked about, because the comparison was made to Pelle's number, and he said, "Well, you can watch all of my goals," and I thought, oh, it is a bit of a knobhead thing, but it is funny at the same time. I mean, look, I think Pelle, I won't hear any denigration of Pelle. I think he's absolutely incredible. And you look back, people will say, oh, he's from a time that's before Maradona and before Messi. But you look back at some of the stuff that he was doing, and the goal he scored in the 58 final he was an incredible footballer, and he deserves to be mentioned in it. He's like, the people call him the king of football. He deserves to be mentioned in that breadth. And it is a bit of a knobhead move to sort of be so callously disrespectful of Pelé, but then it's part of his weird charm, Ronaldo. Charm, for want of a better phrase.
Charm, yeah. He was interviewed recently, and maybe it's in the same interview, where it took him about 3 seconds to move on from questions that were related to today's performances and what he's seen in Saudi Arabia and stuff like that, to start talking about his record. He seems very obsessed with it, which I guess is not a surprise. He is a narcissist, and I guess to some respect, many footballers are, because they have to be so confident about themselves, don't they? Anthony Gordon did an interview. I know this is a left turn, and did an interview midweek, which was a little bit odd. And I know he was kind of goaded into it by the interviewer, talking about his lack of minutes in the Euros and cry-arsing about it a little bit, which seems a little bit odd. But the interviewer did say, well, wasn't it unfair that you didn't get many minutes when many people were saying you should have got more minutes? Don't you agree with this? And he was like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to your first point, you do, for Ronaldo to have achieved what he's achieved, especially that sort of, let's say, the last 2 years, and there are achievements in there, obviously. Let's say 3 years, let's say since he came back to United, to hit those numbers, to get the sort of Champions League record, which Messi won't reach, and then the other numbers, what he's not adding on top. He couldn't have done that without the narcissism. It's impossible that he would have done that without it, so it's a requisite for that. The Gordon interview, I found it straight, and maybe you're right, because I mean, it was the same as the Klopp interview that was published this week, but I think it was actually earlier in the summer when it was actually undertaken. So to rerun the quotes now seems like he's having a dig when he's still a dig earlier in the summer. But I'm talking about Klopp's quotes on Sancho. What I mean is the context of the interview. You've always got to take that into consideration. And I'm as guilty as anyone of not doing that before I comment. I usually do comment and then go, oh yeah, maybe not. But it did feel quite entitled, didn't it? You would guess a stock answer for a player in an international tournament, even if they're unhappy with the manner in which that they were used at that tournament. And I'm talking, this is Anthony Gordon, by the way. This isn't Jude Bellingham, who was nailed on to start. This is someone who, was arguably lucky to even be in there in the first place because of Rashford being omitted. That's how close that conversation was. To have this kind of entitlement about that he should have been playing more minutes. And all right, he did all right, but he's not a cast iron certainty to play in that position or anywhere in the England team. He's a good player with good numbers, and he can make a difference, but he's not. There's only Jude Bellingham. Well, there are a couple of players in there that you'd say are undroppable. He's not one of them. So to have this entitlement that he should have been dominating the England starting positions at a major tournament is laughable. And I do think it doesn't do him any favours or anyone any favours in football when interviewers are not being... when they're being disingenuous, when they're doing it for their own purpose and they're not helping the player out. But that's part of today's environment, right? If they walk into that, they walk into it.
It is, yeah. Sorry for the left turn from Ronaldo to Anthony Gordon, but Ronaldo, I guess 900 goals is a major achievement. I don't know how many have come in Saudi Arabian football, which is about League Two standard these days. So I think we should discount those. And he's got about 75 of them against Liechtenstein in the Nations League Group D or whatever. So yes. Anyway, good for him. I didn't see too many other standout internationals. I can't remember. Did any other United players play? Didn't see it.
Well,
Italy beat France. I don't think we had any players in that one.
But what a goal by the...
it's quite some
oh my God. Goal, I've not... who scored the goal? Because I didn't see who scored it. I just watched a video of it. I love something that's as clean as that. 3 very beautiful touches and the finish was so crisp. You rarely get to see something in football where it flows so beautifully and the finish is so sweet. Oh God, I loved it. I loved it so much. Not enough to know who scored it. But,
no, I just saw it on Twitter as well. So I didn't pay attention to who actually scored that one. But
San Marino, we haven't mentioned them.
San Marino won their first competitive game for 20 years.
Against, they didn't score 75 goals against them like Ronaldo, but Liechtenstein were unfortunately the cannon fodder for that. And while...
Have you been to San Marino or Liechtenstein?
No, I'm sure they're beautiful places. But while Ronaldo was scoring his 900th career goal, Wayne Rooney was netting the first of his post-career tally, which may number 900 on the testimonial route circuit, I should say, scoring that absolutely beautiful free kick against Celtic.
Yes, it was very nice. He waddled up and struck it very sweetly. His first goal for United was a free kick, wasn't it? Against Fenerbahce. Nope. Was that the third goal? That was his third goal. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm here to be very, very obscure with all my references. I do
literally your job, Wayne. So
I'm here to say no. That was his third goal, Ed. As well, you should know.
Yes. Well, I'm glad you corrected me. I'd have had several DMs about that one. Otherwise, yes. Not exactly looking trim these days, Wayne. But
now.
Rooney, that is Rooney.
Listen. You commented on my 6-pack earlier, and I've definitely got more in common with the athletic tones of Wayne Rooney than I have Cristiano Ronaldo. Of which I'm not complaining. It's par for the course for us early 40s, like I said. That's the normal. Maybe not. You might have thought that Rooney's raced into that position quite enthusiastically.
Yeah.
Waddled, you might say. I think that's a little harsh. I thought you meant Chris waddled because he sometimes scored a good free kick.
He did.
But it was a great shot. And I love that kind of thing about it's so stupid because I'm one of the weird ones who like watching the half-time penalty shootouts with the kids. And there was a little bit of that because sometimes you don't know, like a kid can hit an absolute peach of a shot. They'll fly in the top corner. And often Fred the Red will save the good shots and let the crap ones in. And they did have like an element of that, but I do, on the old romantic. There's a great line. One of my favorite Old Trafford quotes is from Matt Busby. And when he was watching, have I mentioned it? I must have mentioned it on this podcast before. Before there was a pre-match testimonial United played Ireland 1991 as a Busby testimonial, and before that match they played a 6-a-side. They made the pitch shorter, and it was the '68 team against a City Legends team, and it was George Best's last game at Old Trafford, and he scored a tapping goal. And Bobby Charlton, Bill Foulkes, Dennis Lowe all playing, and Busby said something like, "My mind was out in space, my mind was out on the pitch, waltzing with my heart." It's much better than, much more poetic than that. And I just like the idea that every now and then you get a talent going up to replicate his third goal for the club, but his first post-career goal for the club, and who knows how many could follow from that, and maybe another 900.
He can come back for Soccer Aid every year or something like that. Yeah, it was nice to see him. New Plymouth Argyle manager, isn't he? Has had a little bit of a challenging start to the season. They got smashed by Sheffield Wednesday on the opening day.
I was going to say still Plymouth manager. Let's not get too excited. At the time of recording, at the time of airing, he's still Plymouth manager. Let's not.
It's interesting when he was doing well at Derby in really challenging circumstances and helped save them from relegation. There was I guess a kind of thought that he might sort of really progress with his career and maybe he'd be looking at top jobs, maybe even the United job one day. And it hasn't quite worked out yet for him. So he went from Derby to DC United and then that short stint at Birmingham, which was very odd because they asked him to play attacking football with players that weren't able to do it, was the general narrative. And now to Plymouth, who, they're doing all right, aren't they, Plymouth, generally, as for the size of club they are. But maybe a challenging role to really move into a top job after that.
Yeah, it is. You're right with that. And it's difficult to see what kind of ambition Plymouth had. The ambition Birmingham had was clear. It's evident. There's a trail for what they wanted to do. But with Plymouth, it's difficult to see. You really have to look at the general lay of football and say that Plymouth have got to massively overachieve for him to restore his reputation. And you mentioned the Rooney to United links, and he's commented on them in the past, openly inviting them, and the Everton ones. You get the feeling, and I don't want to be cruel because I want, I've talked to you about this, but this is something I've definitely talked on the podcast before, maybe not at too much length, but when I was doing the bio of Rooney, I talked to a lot of people who work with him in America, and they thought that he was going to be a major catalyst for change in the US. So I felt in sort of like taking on the powers that be and everything like that he'd be a transformative manager at club level in the MLS, which, could have had major ramifications for the world game, really, if the MLS stepped up its game and became a major player in that. So I felt that, because there were all kinds of things with in terms of like the schedule and refereeing that Rooney seemed to have a big opinion on. And obviously a big opinion doesn't necessarily mean effects for great change, but the people that I spoke to seemed to be convinced of the opinion that he would affect that major change, or he'd be a part in that. Now, coming back to the United thing, just to close off, and I will be very quick on this, you do feel that the pathway that he's taken, after what happened at Derby, because his stock was still pretty high at Derby, he would have probably been better not working since then if he wanted the United or Everton job, because his stock would have been better as a caretaker to being able to go into that. And I don't even think he'd be able to. United, maybe, you never know the craziness that's around the corner with them, and, like how quickly they'll disband all the Dutch influence that they've brought in to, like, say, let's bring in Wayne Rooney to be caretaker. You couldn't ever discount that from the realms of craziness that's happened at United over the last 10 years. However, I'd think that very remote. Everton maybe, they still, you wouldn't discount that. But I do feel that his chances of either job would have been greatly improved, at least on a caretaker basis, which I think would be the best way that he'd got of getting in the door if he did not take another job after Derby.
No, I think you're right, because he's kind of set his level. I think the challenge we go into MLS is that the way football is structured in the US is it's really quite hard with a salary cap to massively overachieve, right? Like how much influence does a coach have? I mean, a lot, but many percentage points in terms of performance level. No, historically, that's just not true. So it's structured in a way to try and make it quite even, as many US sports are. And I guess that'd have been really hard for him to do that without at DC United any real star players. It's not like they were. I think you get 2 or 3 slots in an MLS team, don't you, for overpaid players outside of your cap, and they weren't doing that anyway. So they were one of the worst teams in MLS when he joined, and they still were when he left. There you go. Good luck, Wayne, with your career. Rooney, that is. And you too, Wayne.
I know you were going to clip that. I knew you were going to clip that. You said it in such a way that is getting clipped.
No, I don't do clipping for social media just to create controversy. Maybe I should. Talking of which, Goldbridge had to go at me this week. Did you see that? So what did he say? I didn't see it, Ed. Given that I didn't tag him in a tweet, he searches for his own name, which is interesting. So I said he was a grifter and a fraud, and he didn't like it. So,
what did he say to that?
Oh, he talked about why are you defending players who play badly? And I was like, that's not what I said at all. I was calling you a grifter and a fraud. So he answered a very different tweet. There you go. Yeah. I got many messages, as you can imagine, from So all of which were totally polite, and none of which questioned my parentage at all.
Good.
I did find that quite fun. United news this week. Not loads. I guess it's the international week, so actually the heat's off Ten Hag a little bit because the focus is not on him in a way that it would have been for the entire week post Liverpool otherwise. But United have signed up Christopher Vivell on a extended basis. So he came in short-term contract. He's the ex-Red Bull Group and briefly Chelsea scouting director. I can't remember what his title is at United. Director of Talent or something like that. He's basically the guy who's heading up some of the talent discovery efforts at United. So he's been extended. I guess he was heavily involved in Chido, Obi Martin and Kone coming to the club this summer. Two exciting young talents. Kone has been fully cleared and Chido Obi Martin has not, as far as I understand it, so far.
Yeah, still waiting.
Just take a while. Yeah, they do lots of safeguarding checks and so on with these transfers for younger players.
Yeah. Seems sensible. All of these decisions do seem sensible. I do. There was the other appointment this week, wasn't there? Which is making me feel like maybe too many cooks are entering the equation. But I feel anything that is confirmed at the moment, all the things that are being confirmed by the club, or at least confirmed on in association with the club, that the club might not deem it worthwhile to confirm every little thing, but those that are being confirmed they all seem sensible, and those are two serious talents that we've got there at that age, especially the Arsenal lad. Is it something like 9 goals he scored against Liverpool or something? 10. Although, I mean, Liverpool's kids last year, we scored 9 against them.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. If he can if he's 1 goal better than our entire team, then
promising.
Things are looking good. Yeah. So if
look, even if he's no good, just the fact that we managed to provoke some cry-arsing from Arsenal fans on Twitter was perfect. Yeah.
Oh my God, Ed, they're at it again. There was one today tweeting about the Mike Riley game in 2004. They were tweeting a video of it. There's like a 6-minute video that still does the rounds. And we are close to 20 years. 20 years. We're not even at 20 years.
He's still crying about it.
If this was in 6 weeks and it was a 20-year anniversary, fine. I understand why it's notable, but this has happened 3 times this year already. They still, we had a cast iron penalty turned down in that game, as well as the one that was awarded, which, now on reflection, everyone could see that Campbell brutally chopped Rooney down. But it's like, I always find it funny because the one, you've given me all the ammunition with the talking about cry-arsing Arsenal fans. It always makes me laugh because a couple of years after that game, 2007-8, Adebayo punches one into the net, and United, instead of crying about it for 15 years, doing video replays, going, well, we lost the title. What we ended up doing was, I know this is a novel concept for any Arsenal fans like watching this, but pass it on, because obviously it's a lesson that your team could do with even now, because maybe it's an endemic issue that riddles Arsenal Football Club. What we did, Ed, the players pulled up the sleeves, can't pronounce that very cleverly. They rolled up their sleeves. They got on with winning the game of football. They won the game of football, and they won the title. Wow. That's what happened. Well, they didn't cry about it for 20 years. They didn't blame Mike Riley. They didn't, and I don't even know how has this happened, that Arsenal fans believe that they believe, Ed, they believe that there is a conspiracy, a refereeing conspiracy against Arsenal. To what end? To what end? Is there a conspiracy against Arsenal? What do we achieve with this conspiracy against Arsenal?
I think it's great. I love it all. I love it all. The 6-minute compilations with some Euro pop and a few pieces of refereeing that they believe went against them. Clearly Rio Ferdinand in that game, it was shoulder to shoulder. He didn't for a moment take out the player. I don't know what they're crying about. Yeah, I love it. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. We did talk for many years, Paul and I, on this here pod about the Galluminati. So David Gill, pulling the strings. I like to see that Jean-Claude Blanc from Ineos Sport, he was the interim CEO at United, of course, before Omar Barada started, has been appointed to the Euro Club Board. So when United get good again, we can say, ha, we've been pulling the strings. I don't know how that would help us pull the strings, but we can point to it.
But they already say it now, don't they? They were like, oh, typical. What? How does that possibly serve us? Like,
there's about 900 people on the European Club Association board. Yeah.
And you did see the Europa League draw, right? We've not been. We are in the Europa League, guys. Nobody's putting us anywhere that we don't deserve to be.
Sneakily adding us into the Champions League. Should have done that, actually. We should have programmed the AI. Like that guy before the England-Ireland game, sneaked onto the end of the England team. I'll try to, anyway.
Carl Power, like I said
No Carl Power, yeah. All right. I think... You know what? I think that's about it for United news. There was I was going to bring up the Athletic piece that was talking about apparently Jason Wilcox and overseen by Jim Ratcliffe are looking carefully at Eric Ten Hag's game model to look for improvements. Jason Wilcox, fine. That is literally his job. He's the technical director. I do like the implication, insinuation, implied idea that Jim Ratcliffe is deeply studying the tactics videos and going, don't like Eric Ten Hag's game model. He really should have a higher press with the lower.
Yeah. I have one United bit of news. I was telling you just before. It's not really United, but it is. It's not really associated with the club per se, but it is. David Peace, the acclaimed sports fiction novelist who wrote The Damned United and obviously other works, but that's the one that most people remember his legacy for so far. He has written a book titled Munichs. I wasn't actually aware of this until it came out. I think it came out last week. I wasn't aware of it until maybe about 10 or 11 days ago when one of my friends, my best mates, was at the launch of that book somewhere in London and picked up the book. He was flicking through the bibliography and my books, a couple of my books mentioned in the back. So he, in this Q&A, this launch event, there was a Q&A after, and he mentioned, he sort of stood up and mentioned my name. So David.
Oh, this is where you bring up, back to Ronaldo. It's all about me, isn't it, Wayne?
No. What I'm actually this. Look, I'm going to do a rare thing here because I will quite gladly hulk my books on this podcast. Yeah, but the point is that I haven't read all of it. I've only read the opening part of it, and it's. I think once you get past the part, first of all, the title. He's already explained, because Munichs is a very provocative title, because obviously anyone listening to this will know that that's the derogative term that people use against United, Liverpool, and mostly Leeds fans use it against United.
Yeah. Liverpool like to call us the scum. I think that's their favourite. So
and we get rags from City as well.
Rags from City.
Usually, a lot of. I mean, there are some, not just Leeds. It's not just Leeds, but Leeds are the main ones who use that. It's pejorative, it's meant to insult and blah 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 blah. So it's a very provocative title, but I think if you give it a chance and read the disclaimers, I think there's something in Red News, but I think it's taken from the back of the book where David actually speaks about wanting. I think this is ambitious. Honestly, he's saying that United fans should reclaim that, and I think, this is football banter. This isn't historical racial slurs or anything like that. So. But I think in terms of an artistic license, I think it's very powerful to do that. What I will say is it's not necessarily representative of what you would expect from the book. The book is moving. It's a fictional account of the real event, so told in his way. It's very, very emotional, as you would expect. It's so well written. It's fantastic, honestly. And now we're in a space of time, September. Munich's not really in the United vocabulary so much, so it's something that you can pick up, and you're doing it almost obviously with sentiment, but not with the present sentiment of you're in the moment where everyone's talking about it, where it's just it is what it is in terms of being part of United's fabric, and you just absorbing it for that. Ed, honestly, I'm saying this. This is what I'm talking about. Obviously, nothing to do with me. I can promote this book, tell you that it's very, very valuable. People who aren't that familiar with Munich, and there are a lot. Everyone knows the story, but I think that lots of people know the story but aren't that familiar with it.
Yeah.
Get this book, read it. The research for it is impeccable, not just because he's used my work, obviously, but his research otherwise is impeccable. So there's nothing really in there that you say that's out of taste, it's bad or anything like that. Honestly, do yourself a favour, read it. It is beautiful, and
well, we should have him on the pod to have a chat about it. I always enjoyed David Peace's books. In fact, he started out writing historical fiction. Mainly set in Leeds and Yorkshire. I think his first few books were, but and then obviously The Damned United. So I will check out Munichs for sure. It is interesting since we're talking about it. There's kind of offensive names, Munichs, Rags, the Scum. I tweeted out. I used the word dippers to describe Liverpool fans the other day on Twitter, and of course that has connotations of working class poverty and people dipping into bins and so on. Someone, I will not name them, but dropped into my inbox and said, he said, you shouldn't use this. It's not funny banter, calling them dippers or us Rags, Scum and Munichs. Munichs is a bit more edgy, I think, than the rest of them. But of all the terrible things in football, I'm not sure this is the one I care about that highly.
No, and like I said, I do think it's a little bit ambitious that he's talking about United fans reclaiming it. I'm not completely sure about that, but I do feel.
I think that'd be really hard, honestly. I mean, there's words which I will not use that have been reclaimed by certain groups, right?
Exactly,
whether it's about sexuality or race. This one would be really hard for us to kind of adopt.
I don't think, and you wouldn't want to really. I think United are quite comfortable with that. I think if it's you understand Warriors for Justice and things like that, and the deep reasons for it. I don't think United fans are that unsettled by it that they need to do that. I think it is what it is, and it represents what it represents. But I like from a creative standpoint. I like the provocation that he's doing that, because I always like pushing the boundary a little bit, because it does at least remind you that it is just a word, right? And it's the object of that word can't be offensive in and of itself. So what it represents in how someone's using that word, obviously the other things that you're talking about there are very different in terms of they've got deeper political connotations. This is a word related to an event, and it really just shows the idiocy of the person that's using it. City fans have used it in the past in complete ignorance of the fact that one of their own died.
Same with Leeds.
Exactly, yeah. So they just... Anyway, but I will say, just to repeat the point, it will be anyone listening to or watching this, get a copy of it, because it will be valuable in terms of your understanding of Munich, and also putting it in your library, because
Amazon affiliate links in the. No, I'm kidding. All right, we're gonna move on. We've got a few questions. I did put out a call for questions, and normally I get 50 to 100 of them, and I'm swamped. And I think I put it out in the middle of the night, UK time.
No, what you did was
one answered it. What did I do?
You said Wayne is going to be on the show, and they'll know. I just did a mini segue that was 11 minutes probably. Talking about something that I just wanted to say, buy the bloody book because it's beautiful. Now, that's what's going to happen with every single question, and we don't have all night. So
we're going to be rapid. We're going to be rapid. All right. Let's segue from talking about the Scousers to friend of the pod, Chris Etchingham, who's honorary Scouser. If Ten Hag was sacked now, would you take Fergie back if he offered to do the job? Well, I understand it. He might not really be in the state of health that would allow him to do that right now. But would we take prime Fergie back in a heartbeat? I would.
Prime Fergie, but that's not the question, Ed.
Prime.
That's
It was
not the question.
It's not the question. Would he do it on an interim basis? I don't think he would. No. Having seen the chaos at United for the last 10 years, he's never offered to do that. So I think he's enjoying his retirement and probably should stay in the director's box. Prime Fergie, if I could get a time machine, go back 20 years and grab him and bring him back. Yeah. Obviously, I would run Ten Hag over with whatever vehicle I had at the time.
Well, that a little bit extreme. I mean, you can just do one without doing the other. But yeah, I mean, it's like that Simpsons episode, like where Homer steals all Flanders' flowers, and Flanders goes, "Did you have to salt the earth so nothing would ever grow again?" Yeah. Homer's like, "Yeah, I did." So yeah, we don't have to get the steamroller out. Prime Fergie, obviously, yes, because he was such a roller with evolution that kind of thing. But I think he got out when he got out. Social media. Did he call Raiola a shitbag? Imagine having to deal with shitbags every week. As his job would.
He was not a fan of Raiola, let's say.
No, and obviously we've still got a lot of the clients from his agency still at the club. I noticed that the lady who took over, whose name
Rafaela Pimiento. I think she's more agreeable.
Yeah. I mean, anything is by comparison, right? So. Yeah, no, I don't think latter day Fergie, this current Ferguson, I think he would lament the current state of the game. There's so many different things as well. But I mean, if you're looking for a manager who can take on a challenge like City, he's
he'd relish it. Yeah.
Yeah, he'd be able I don't have any worries about that. People say, Ferguson versus Guardiola or whatever. Interestingly, I wonder if this is where Chris has come up with this, is because Sky Sports put a thing out saying it was the greatest of all time.
Oh, God, yeah, I saw that.
Which is just...
There's only one answer.
Yeah, I mean, there's not even... You are...
There are people on there saying Jurgen Klopp won Premier League title. Come on.
Well, also, Arne Slot also did say Kenny Dalglish as well, which I thought, I don't mind that because... You've got to ingratiate yourself in there, and fair enough. But
he also only had one Premier League title. He obviously won it, the old first division with Liverpool as well. So.
Yeah, well, he won one with Blackburn.
95, one Premier League.
Yeah, so you could say Ranieri as well if we're going down that route. Look, then for years we lived with this with Wenger, Wenger's the best.
Reinvented football, didn't he?
Yeah, all that stuff. Even though Ferguson had already done a lot of the stuff that he'd done, And then Mourinho, I think the Mourinho of Chelsea is a very good model of basically what Klopp did against Guardiola, that he created a team like what Ferguson did. But I think Ferguson obviously created a much better system for long-term success against that kind of rival. I think a younger, hungry, more capable to roll with these modern changes of United, less tired of what football had become. I think a hungry Ferguson at a younger age would have absolutely devoured this. And I think the league is so poor that he would have reinvented what consistency is because he was all about hunger and not about systems. And hunger is much more valuable than anything that Guardiola's put in at City. So
yes, I mean, not that he didn't have tactical nous, but also surrounded himself with the right people. A place for United, a place for my head. Sorry, says ticket prices. Villa's ridiculous Champions League ticket prices for United charging away Barnsley fans £40 for a third round Carabao Cup tie. Question: when will it stop? I mean, the 20th plenty thing is not in the Carabao Cup, so it is a shame that United don't do that. As well for this kind of game. It's not as bad a crime as Villa charging £97 for a Champions League Cup game, and there only being one option for children, which is only under 14s, not under 18s, and in one section, and there's only a few of them, apparently £30 tickets.
Oh, the Villa thing is disgusting. I've seen a lot of Villa fans who...
They need the money, by the way. That's partly why they're doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, they're talking about the guy who's chairman, whose name escapes me, but a lot of complaints have gone into him because obviously he's not going to be a Doug Ellis. He's not going to be there forever. And the damage that you're having on the supporters over a short space of time, considering that they've been there for such a long space of time, and you're not going to be there for all that time is quite disgraceful, really. It completely contradicts and shows a fundamental misunderstanding for what a football club is supposed to be, especially a club like Villa, especially a club like Aston Villa, whose fans have been through so much. There's one of these top clubs of, one of the best clubs in the country, without doubt, an incredible fan base. They deserved everything that happened to them last season. To price supporters out of this kind of thing is nothing short of disgraceful. I'm less annoyed with United about the Barnsley thing, because I think 40 quid, did you say, is not that bad for Barnsley's first time to Old Trafford in a generation. I don't think that's a terrible thing. United also are trying to ship all the tickets, as many as they can, because your normal membership can get 2 tickets on the membership, but these, for the Barnsley game, you can get 6. We're all getting the emails for it. All the season tickets, all there's the game though. So they've got to try and the discrepancy in the cost in how low that attendance is going to be across the home fans has got to be met somewhere. And I don't think £40 is a terrible price.
No, it's not terrible. They also they have a discussion between the clubs in these ties for pricing as well, because there have been times in the past when United have tried to reduce the prices in order to boost the size of the crowd. And that's not been allowed because obviously they share the gate receipts. All right, Anto Curran says, with the amount of different types of sporting directors at United now, elite performance one appointed yesterday, is there a danger of mixed messages going out? I don't think so. I think actually with the structure that United are building here, there's real clarity in what everyone is doing and they have to achieve. And that's all you really need. You go, hey, we've got a structure in place. This is what we believe our vision is as leader, right? CEO does this, and I guess coming from Ratcliffe and the ownership group as well. But we want you to achieve these things. Now, go off with the right kind of tools. So I think on the sporting side of things, United are pretty clear about what they're trying to achieve now.
Yeah, no, I agree in principle, in theory. I think in practice, you never know. You just never know, right? So I do have that worry. I said it earlier, too many cooks. And we have seen when things don't go right at United. Bear in mind, this is new ownership, new regime, new faces, new names, new relationships with the club, new relationships with existing people at the club. We have no idea in practice how that's going to go down. So you want to say that. I want to say that. I want to believe that. But I couldn't say it without any certainty. And the concern of the question is could that happen? That's my concern as well. My concern.
There's a lot of new people in place all at once. So what it really, really needs is clarity from the leader about these are the things you do. And ensuring that there isn't politics between, because if you're going to get some Game of Thrones shit between people, as you've seen at Chelsea in the past, which was a very political culture under Abramovich.
And now
apparently with differences of opinion in various ownership of their direction, then of course you can get a problem. But in theory, structure is really good. So yes, there's a risk, of course, but it's going to be on Omar Barada as the CEO to lead that properly. Yeah. Devon Anderson says, should we sign Rabiot on a free transfer? Pros and cons. Deschamps was talking about him this week, saying it's very strange he doesn't have a club. He doesn't have a club.
Yeah. And
he's too good a player not to have a club. The question is, do you take him and his mum as a package? And given he's 29 now? And maybe wants a 4-year contract. Is that the kind of deal we want to do? Because they've been very clear about looking for younger players generally. In fact, they're all under 26, the players they've signed this summer. Mazraoui being the oldest one. So we are a bit short in midfield, though, Wayne. What do you think?
Yeah. Was it 2 years ago? You're going to tell me the name, because I can't remember the name. Rabiot and someone else. The two names mentioned before we signed Casemiro. Everyone shit the bed. Sorry for the language.
Frankie de Jong was the one.
No. There was another one. There was another one. He had questionable. He'd said or done something questionable.
Arnautovic.
Arnautovic. There you go. So there were two names.
Yes. Well, he'd said some racist shit.
Of course. But what I'm saying is, so the Rabiot and Arnautovic were the names who were being mentioned, and then we said no, something happened, and where the manager was just backed, and we got Casemiro and Anthony instead, and everyone rejoiced. Everyone rejoiced. We had the conversation on this podcast where it was kind of like, that's good now, but what about 2 years down the road?
Now we're 2 years. Casemiro, yeah.
Well, we had that conversation. We said, all right, well, short term, this sounds like a really good plan. Long term, we don't know. But we said, well, let's revisit the conversation. Maybe we said that. I'm guessing that we did. Now we are here 2 years later, and we are talking about getting one of those players who we all shit the bed about 2 years ago to come back in and replace the player that we got at the time, which he seems, but I'm not 100% against that, apart from the fact that his mummy is involved.
a bit challenging, yeah. I think if he was on a 2-year contract, it'd be fine, but he'd be wanting a 4 or 5 year contract, which I just doesn't make any sense. I'm still waiting for Wesley Sneijder to get that deal done. Lethal Mo says, safe NQAT pod. My question is, do you think Michael Carrick can still get in our first team, bro? Bruh. Do you think? No, he couldn't, is the answer.
If we're being very, very clinical about this.
He could not, but this is from the charity game, of course. We had another question, actually, from friend of the pod, Tarek Amir, who said, if you had to pick 5 players from any era to go into a penalty shootout, who would you choose? Related to the fact that they had some spot kicks today, didn't they? 5 penalty takers. I would pick Cantona. I would pick Irwin. I would pick Bruno.
Yeah.
I can't really give you. I'd pick. How many penalties did Robson take in the 80s? Quite a few, I think. We're saying any era. I'm going to pick Robson just because.
Because he's Robson.
Because he's Brian Robson. Yeah. I can't really give you one from the 70s. How many did Dennis Law score in the 60s for United? Oh, Bobby Charlton with some net breakers.
Bobby Charlton. Yeah, and I think George took a couple. I don't think Dennis was renowned as I think Tony Dunn took a couple as well.
Maybe I've only got 4 there. Who would you have outside of the ones I picked?
Irwin, Cantona, they're the obvious 2. Rude.
Did miss that one against Arsenal. Since bring it around back.
Then he did score that one against Arsenal as well.
Yeah.
So that, how could you hold that against him? That was his.
I'm not holding him against him.
That was his bloody redemption arc. Ed, you've really gone down in my estimation with that. So that's 3. You haven't. Alex Stepney, because he scored a couple. He scored 2 out of 3 in the 70s. If you wanted to
that's
get me for an obscure, obviously. So those 4, and I'll go Bruno as well. Why not? Steve Bruce.
Oh, he had a great record. Yeah.
The Rhino run up to the if you want to watch a kid taking a penalty, the way run round and run up to the ball and head down and everything and then blast it in. And it was a great record as well from the spot. He's Bruce is your man. If Stepney
scored over 20 goals one year, I think about half of them were penalties, including some big ones. Well, there you go. I think that's pretty good. That's a pretty good selection.
Oh, can I one story on that? You've got to let me have my story in. Do you know the day before the cup final, 94? They were practicing penalties at the team hotel. Cantona, it's not common knowledge, but Cantona had a sciatic nerve problem going into that game. So much so that they were thinking he wasn't going to start. So much so, in fact, that at half-time, Ferguson had toyed with the idea of bringing him off. Cantona had been practicing the penalties before, but he was showing, team hotel, he's taking the penalties, but his back's giving out on him. Bruce went up to him and he went, "Don't worry, Eric. If we get a penalty on Saturday, I'll take it." And I think he was probably the only man praying that Cantona was my back's not feeling it, But then he scores the penalty. And this is perfect Cantona, right? to be fair, those 2 penalties, he does seem to be quite leaning back. If you remember, it looks like he's leaning back. So he actually does look like he's quite in pain. But Cantona, whenever you saw him play, he was always like straight. And Ed and I are experts in the field of back structures here, so we can tell exactly like how great Cantona's posture was generally. But you can tell in that final that he's got back pain, but the penalties were probably the best that he ever took. So sorry, Steve, but I love that little story. He was like, "I'll take him, Eric. Don't worry about it," as if he had any chance.
As if, yeah. Perfect. Yeah, 1994. What a team! What a team! Yeah. All right, last couple, and we better leave it. How does the back four look with Yoro and Shaw returning? Well, the attacking. By the way, Diego Dallo, one of the most improved players at United, had a very good season last season. Started this season well, but to have a left-footed overlapping fullback in United's system with high fullbacks, and especially to free up Marcus Rashford, I think Shaw would be pretty transformative.
Yeah.
Touchwood, he can play some games this season. And Yoro, I mean, we're in no desperate rush, right? We actually have quite a few centre-backs at the moment. But I'm looking forward to his recovery pace and ability to eat up ground with those ridiculously long legs. I do think does help United have a high starting defensive line and be able to compress space, and especially with Ten Hag, who likes his back four to retreat quite quickly, he can do that. So I think they'll both be excellent in theory, especially Shaw though.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. One little point on Shaw, try and make it as very quick as possible. Shaw, my only concern with the link with Rashford is I feel like Ten Hag's almost at a crossroads with Rashford. He's been poor so far this season. I don't think he was as poor as many made out against Liverpool.
Two great chances. I mean, that's pretty good. Yeah.
But he was generally poor. I think if Shaw comes back, it pushes that decision down the road. Generally speaking, accepting that United aren't going to challenge for the title this season, that it's Marcus's pretty much his last chance, I would think, at really cementing his legacy going forward in terms of you're going to be a permanent star of the club moving forward. I think this is his last chance to do that. In tandem with Shaw, that's the best way that it's going to happen. So, and we want to see that. I just worry that because we're at that crossroads, maybe it gives a player more of a chance than what he might frustrate another players on. I'm trying to get to really like Garnacho, Ahmad. Are we hurting ourselves in the short term and long term by trying to give more of a chance to a player in the short term when we know that really that's not going to work out? That's my only worry, even though the balance of the side.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm at the point where I know that it's not going to work out with Rashford. I mean, we are only just over a year away from him having past him having a fantastic 30-goal season. So I think the problems with him are partly mental, aren't they? Confidence, you can see it, where you won't attack players, but a lot game model as well. He's very modern. He is asked to stay very, very wide at the moment. So he's not in the positions on the pitch where I think he would be most dangerous.
Yeah. Maybe I'm being
and then with Garnacho, I don't care where he plays in the front, right, left. I don't think it matters with him. He's a big moments player, and I think he'll produce those wherever he is. Ahmad, is he going to be a top player? Maybe. Who knows? Don't know yet, but I do like a lot of what I see with him. But I'm not looking at him going, he's obviously an elite player, and obviously he should be in the side, and obviously he'd be in a title-winning United side. So I'm not there yet with him. All right. We're final. I know these are all sort of all over the place, these questions, but final question. Fergie time, 99. What a handle that is. Says, best goalkeeper in order between Schmeichel, Van der Sar and De Gea. It's a challenging one, isn't it?
Do we have to only have those three?
Yeah. Well, it's obviously a very modern question because he's not asking you about Chris Woods or Gary Bailey or Chris Turner. Sorry, not Chris Woods. Chris Turner. Or Gary Bailey or Massimo Taibbi or Alex Stepney or...
Yeah, but I do. Tim Howard.
I'm just going to name goalkeepers. Yeah.
You're just going to... Well, one that you didn't mention, who I do feel deserves a mention, is Harry Gregg. And the reason why he deserves a mention is I think it gets forgotten because he was a hero of Munich, and that rightly, in a way, becomes all that he is to so many different people. He was the best goalkeeper. He was voted best goalkeeper in the world at that year's World Cup, 1958 World Cup, which also included Lev Yashin, who before Schmeichel was pretty much regarded as the best goalkeeper that ever lived. So that's the kind of company that we're talking about. Harry Gregg, at the time that he was signed, United's... There's very little that Busby could do to improve the Busby Babes. I'm sorry to give the history lesson, but it is important for this one. Because I really want to make sure that the importance of Harry Gregg, first of all, for his quality, which I've just mentioned, and second of all, for what he contributed as a player, as apart from being a hero, how significant it was. Very little that Busby could do to improve the 1956-7 side. Harry Gregg was brought in to provide, was condensing the play up the pitch. What Busby had tried to do to improve the game of his team, knowing that it was pretty much perfect, how could he make it even better? How could he make it more attacking? At a time when the formation was 3-2-5, the fullbacks would overlap. Bill Foulkes would pretty much be the most defensive player because he didn't like to forage forward, so he'd be the right back. In this team, it was right back. Centre back was Mark Jones. He was a traditional stopper centre off, head everything out. Not so good on the ball, just get the ball and move it on. In games against teams who would pack the defences, what Busby decided to do was put Jackie Blanchflower in defence. And Jackie Blanchflower moved from inside forward to half-back, which was defensive midfield, to centre-back. He was only 5'11", so he wasn't going to win much in the air, but he was really hard as nails, so he wasn't going to lose any physical battles. So to have him there, but he was really good on the ball, meant that United had another attacking player in the team. So that was 9 of the 10 players outfield could attack. Now, in order to make them even more attacking, what Busby did was identify that Gregg, and I think he picked up on it when Northern Ireland played England, he bossed the penalty area in a way that other goalkeepers didn't do. This was an era where they were called liners. Ray Wood, great goalkeeper, stayed on his line all the time. He would come out to claim crosses, but he would always, not very far, he'd like the 6-yard box was his domain. Harry Gregg, his 20-yard box was his domain, famously clattering everyone in his first few weeks as the United manager, as the United goalkeeper, clattering all of his own players in the box just to claim the crosses. They were all like, they were apologising to him in a way, like, oh, sorry for getting in your way. He's like, all right, just get out of my way, kind of thing. In one of the first games he played, we let in a few goals, by the way, in the first few weeks as they were getting used to him. We played Red Star in the first game of that tie at home, 1-2-1. The goal that they scored was a 30-yard lob because Gregg was miles out of his net, a little bit like Andre Onana. But the point was, United's play had become compressed up the pitch by another 20 yards. And if you look at that period of time, they were scoring more goals. There was a famous game where they went to Arsenal and won by 1-5-4. They went to Red Star and drew 3-3 in an incredible game, which Albert Scanlon said that they defended and attacked the best that he'd ever seen the United team play in that game. Maybe a little bit of romanticism, but that's what he said. The point was that what was happening at that time was a complete transformation of how United were playing. And that was down to Gregg pushing that play up by 20 yards. So in terms of transformational goalkeepers and quality, he deserves to be mentioned. And it is one of the, like everyone talks about Steve Bruce never getting an England cap. You would scarcely believe that Harry Gregg was at the club up until 1967 and didn't win a single winner's medal because of injuries that he'd sustained, shoulder injuries and a broken skull. The long-lasting damage of what he picked up in Munich by being such a hero. So, I think he deserves to be mentioned in the top 3. And there's a reason for what I'm going to say. And I know that this was meant to be a very quick throwaway question that you thought, oh, this one Wayne couldn't possibly elongate on. Unfortunately, you know me, right? So very quickly, as much as I can. Busby came out with a great line, and you'll remember the antidote to this line, which was Mourinho said, poets don't win football matches. Whereas Busby said, the thing I love most about football is the poetry, which if anything tells you the symmetry,
different philosophies,
and the contrast of what it takes to run a football club and what Manchester United is supposed to be about. So when I'm mentioning Harry Gregg and I'm mentioning all that, it's because it's the romance and the sentiment that it is all involved in that, and how transformative he was as a player, just in the same way that Eric Cantona was 30 years later. So in my list, I'm going to go Peter Schmeichel. now I've come to the top three: Peter Schmeichel, Edwin van der Sar, and then Harry Gregg. But those three are much closer together. Schmeichel, I think, by a more considerable distance, but van der Sar and Gregg very close as a 2 and 3.
All right. Yeah, no, my knowledge of Harry Gregg is superficial compared to yours. So of the three, I would go Schmeichel, Van der Sar, De Gea, and taking all their time. If you chop the last 3 years off De Gea's career, I might change my mind. But he was pretty dreadful. Yeah. It's pretty dreadful in those last 3 years for United, whether it was focus or whatever it was that changed how he performed for United. He got the yips, didn't he? And that might change my mind because at times his performances were his ability to stop goals, which is what goalkeepers do, was higher than the other two, potentially. At least his reflexes, but his all-round game went, and then he started checking ones into the net, which all good goalkeepers do. Edwin van der Sar, 2011 Champions League final, lit one in his near post. Peter Schmeichel, in one of his early games for United, absolute rick against Atletico. Do you remember that one?
No.
It was. It wasn't his first game for United, but it was very early in his time with the club. So anyway. All right, we'll leave it there for this week. Thank you very much, everyone, for your questions, thoughts, points, feedback, criticism, prodding, and so on. We'll catch you soon. Bye now.